We turn now to President Trump's latest attacks on Somali immigrants in Minnesota. About 84,000 people of Somali descent live in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. The president says he doesn't want any Somalis living in the U.S. after a few dozen were implicated in a COVID relief fraud case.
But leaders in Minnesota were unable to grasp the idea of immigrant poverty. They were more afraid of being called racist if they did their jobs to try and deal with potential welfare fraud within the Somali community.
A massive fraud scheme uncovered in Minnesota found money intended for social services has been allegedly siphoned indirectly into the pockets of the Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab.
"214 children, one island, midnight. Just off Miami, where the water turns black and the mansions go quiet. 63 federal agents moved through salt fog without a word. FBI, ICE, DIA, SWAT. No sirens. No warning. Just engines low in the dark and the chop of Blackhawk blades far enough offshore to stay unheard until it was too late. The target looked untouchable. A private island estate wired like a fortress. 3 villas. 2 guest compounds. A marina with customs-cleared access. A helipad. Steel storm shutters. Armed guards on the seawall. And at the center of it all, Judge Abdi Rahman Suleiman, a polished international court advisor with a velvet voice, diplomatic friends, and a reputation so clean it made warrants disappear. Then the gates blew. Flash. Splinters. Shouting in 2 languages. Men running through white hallways with duffel bags heavy enough to drag across marble. One guard reached for a rifle and vanished under a wall of federal agents before he could shoulder it. Another tried the dock. He made it 10 steps. Inside the East Wing, agents found 12 locked rooms. Inside the basement, they found more. Not 10 victims. Not 20. 214 children packed through hidden dormitories behind acoustic walls. Some drugged, some barefoot, some too terrified to move when the doors opened. And if you think that was the worst thing in that house, wait until you hear what sat beneath the wine cellar. Because the island was never just an island. At the same moment the main estate was breached, teams hit 5 linked properties across South Florida, a luxury condo in Brickell, a warehouse near Hialeah, a coastal mansion in Fort Lauderdale, a charter dock in Homestead, a storage site disguised as a medical import company near the port. The numbers came fast and ugly. 38 arrests in the first hour, 17 assault rifles, 9 shotguns, 4 Barrett 50 caliber rifles packed in foam-lined cases, 7 encrypted servers, 2 satellite phones still warm from use, 900 kilograms of cocaine, 76 kilos of heroin, 340 kilos of methamphetamine, more than 1.4 million fentanyl pills hidden inside children's toy packaging. And then came the cash. Stacks on stacks, vacuum-sealed bricks in yacht lockers, wall cavities, false refrigerators. $27 million before sunrise, and the counting still wasn't finished. But inside a biometric steel vault below Suleiman's library, agents found something money couldn't explain. Government seals, judicial routing codes, port clearance files, patrol maps, names. One name sat at the top of all of it. Not a cartel lieutenant. Not a smuggler. A state logistics oversight chair with the power to reroute cargo screening across 3 counties. That's when the raid stopped looking like a rescue and started feeling like a purge. Hours later, inside an FBI cyber lab lit blue by cracked monitors and sleepless faces, analysts fed the seized drives into a secure system and watched a web bloom across the screen. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Key Biscayne, Port Everglades, Palm Beach, then farther, Nassau, San Juan, Cartagena, Djibouti, Dubai. The files carried one internal label over and over again: Black Tide Corridor. That was the name the syndicate used for itself. Not just a trafficking ring, a machine. The children moved through fake guardianship papers and shell charities. The narcotics moved through seafood exporters, construction suppliers, green energy startups, luxury concierge firms. One restaurant chain on paper had lost money for 4 straight years. In reality, it washed millions through offshore accounts connected to Gulf cartel brokers and East African handlers who never used the same port twice in a month. And buried inside the transaction logs was Suleiman's digital signature. Not once. Repeatedly. On transport exemptions. On land use consultations near coastal dredging sites. on legal interventions that delayed inspections long enough for trucks to clear the county line. They didn't infiltrate the system. They became the system. And the worst part? The children on that island were only the visible part. The files pointed to transfers nobody had intercepted yet. By dawn, command screens across a federal task center glowed red with markers pulsing over South Florida like a spreading infection. One island had turned into 27 sites. What looked like a rescue was about to become a region-wide hammer drop. 680 federal agents. 21 SWAT teams. Blackhawks overhead. Marine units cutting through inlet channels. Armored vehicles moving on warehouses before commuters even touched their coffee. They hit a drug super lab hidden behind a marine upholstery business and found industrial mixers coated in meth dust. They stormed a hillside property overlooking Biscayne Bay and discovered a command room with live port feeds, custom schedules, and a wall-size map marking safe corridors in green. They cracked open a reinforced tunnel entrance beneath a bait storage yard and followed it to electric carts, oxygen tanks, and cargo bins filled with fentanyl pills disguised as vitamin shipments. Then, the contradiction landed. They thought they were shutting down a trafficking empire. They were also walking through a logistics network built to survive the shutdown. Because while agents were ripping apart the tunnel system, miles away at a private marina, a seized server pinged one last time. Outbound. Emergency protocol. A warning had gone out before the last cable was cut. Someone inside the response chain had tipped the survivors. And if you think that sounds dirty, wait until you hear how dirty. The next logs opened like a knife. 32 compromised officials across municipal and state layers, 9 port inspectors, 6 police supervisors, 4 court clerks, 3 customs brokers, 2 elected county figures, 1 deputy transit director. Payments moved through Bitcoin wallets, offshore accounts, prepaid luxury travel, and old-fashioned cash stashed in gym lockers and condo safes. Patrol grids had been altered to create quiet lanes on convoy nights. Raid plans had leaked. Evidence had vanished from storage. Arrested cartel members had made bond on paperwork so fast it looked supernatural. One veteran agent stared at the screen and said nothing for almost a minute. Then, he finally whispered the part no one in that room wanted to admit. These were our people. Same badges. Same pension systems. Same memorial ceremonies. Honest officers had been driving partners to work while those partners were selling route windows to traffickers who moved children and narcotics under the same moon. This wasn't law enforcement with a few bad actors buried inside it. This was a second force running parallel. One that answered to money, fear, and a judge on an island who knew exactly which door to knock on and which one to bury forever. But the rot still went deeper. On one recovered drive, behind layers of maritime invoices and court correspondence, analysts found a master file. No logo. No flourish. Just a planning document with a title so cold it barely looked human. Phase Shoreline. It mapped a 5-year strategy to convert coastal real estate, port access, private security, migrant smuggling lanes, and social service fronts into a shadow government stretching beyond South Florida. Traffic the children. Move the narcotics. Own the lawyers. Buy the inspectors. Compromise the courts. If pressure rises, sacrifice the street crews and protect the infrastructure. The judge wasn't improvising. He was building permanence. And suddenly the island made sense. Not a hideout. A headquarters. Not a mansion. A command bunker dressed in limestone and ocean views. By the second night, helicopters were gone, but the silence felt heavier than the raid. Rescue teams processed the children one by one. Some asked for siblings. Some asked if they were in trouble. Some didn't speak at all. In evidence bays, agents photographed ledgers beside children's drawings found under metal bunks. In interview rooms, hardened investigators had to step outside just to breathe. Because cocaine can be weighed. Cash can be counted. But the real cost of a network like this doesn't fit on a table. It shows up later. In overdoses linked to the fentanyl pills that cleared the port because somebody got paid. In families that spend years looking for a child who was moved between countries under fake paperwork. In neighborhoods where fear becomes normal and silence starts feeling safer than truth. Power doesn't always arrive with gunfire. Sometimes it wears a suit, signs a form, smiles for cameras, and sends children into the dark. If you're still here, you already know this goes far beyond one estate. Tap like so more people see it. Comment expose if you think every official with unexplained wealth should be audited down to the last dollar. Share this, because silence is the shelter networks like this count on.